DC voters, I'm Lisa Rice, native Washingtonian, proposer of Ballot Initiative 83. Let's make politicians work harder with 2 changes to our system. 1, let independents like me vote in taxpayer-funded primary elections. And 2, implement ranked choice voting to vote for your favorite candidate and rank your backup choices. Candidates need over 50% to win. Flip your ballot and vote yes on 83. Paid for by Make All Votes Count DC, Philip Pinnell, Treasurer.
Hey, CityCast DC listener, we are nearing the final day of our fall membership campaign, which means now is your time to sign up and support our show. Thank you so much to those of you who've already taken the leap. We'll have more information for the rest of you later in this episode. Okay, now onto today's program. There is a trial going on in a case that has transfixed DC. A group of teenage girls are accused of beating a disabled man to death because they were bored. So today on CityCast DC, we are talking to Keith Alexander from the Washington Post. He was in court and is here to talk us through the story. Oh, and stick around after the interview, too. There has been a lot of conversation nationally around childcare costs, and the local nonprofit Mothers Outreach Network is trying to address that in DC with the ultimate goal of helping families stay together. They shared some shocking stats with us and some solutions. You'll want to learn more. Today is Thursday, October 24th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Keith.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So this is a horrific story, and it really captured the city's attention. It happened a year ago, but the details have only just this month been playing out in court. Can you take us back to what happened last October?
Sure, Michael. I mean, yes, you're right. Not only did it capture the city's attention, I mean, the nation. I mean, this story has picked up nationwide. It's such a horrific case. This happened October of 2023, around just after midnight, 12:30 in the morning. A 64-year-old gentleman who lived in an upper northwest neighborhood near Pentworth area was out for a late-night walk. His name is Reggie Brown, 64 years old, was battling cancer and undergoing some chemo and radiation for the cancer. And according to his family, as a result of that treatment, he would also take late-night walks so that he could sleep better at night. And this one evening, a weeknight, by the way, Mr. Brown was walking down Georgia Avenue, and he was accosted by another man. And we've seen this man on video. He's unidentified. He's still out there. He's not been arrested. He's wearing a big blue puffy jacket. While this guy in the blue jacket is beating Mr. Brown, 5 young girls between the ages of 12 and 15 walk up on this altercation. And one of the girls, a 15-year-old girl, asked the man in the blue coat, "Can we help?" Meaning, can we help you attack Mr. Brown? Now, backstory, which came out in court just last week, the 15-year-old who has since pled guilty to assault with a deadly weapon, her foot, she testified in open court that the girls had gathered at a skating rink in Silver Spring earlier that day. They had skipped school. And in her words, they were, quote unquote, bored. And they were looking to find someone to fight, to jump. Walking the streets after midnight, they walk upon Mr. Brown, who's being assaulted by this other gentleman, and they proceed to chase Mr. Brown down an alley. One girl, a 13-year-old, jumps a fence, gets to the top of the fence, then jumps on Mr. Brown from the top of the fence. And then these 5 girls proceed to kick and stomp this 64-year-old man, defenseless, unarmed, disabled. He only had 2 fingers on each hand. They kicked and beat him, stomped him to death.
This it was captured, a lot of it on video.
And thank you for reminding me of that, Michael, because that was also what was so astonishing. Not only was the attack captured on security video from nearby Domino's, but one of the girls, as a lot of teenagers, girls and boys, do today, one of the girls pulled out her cell phone and recorded the attack. And these girls are celebrating as if they are watching a football game or a basketball game and their favorite team has won. They are celebrating as they are kicking and beating Mr. Brown. They are celebrating as one of the girls pulls Mr. Brown's pants down, removes his belt, and beats him with his own belt.
So what happened next? Like, this video got around. This was, as you say, a national story. How quickly did authorities make an arrest, and how did they find them?
They found them because one of the girls' case managers had seen the video. And again, remember, these girls recorded this. And that video was going around, was being distributed among themselves, among their friends. And one of the girls whose family has a case manager, because they're working with the girl for prior challenges that the girls had, this case manager saw the video, and the case manager sent the video to a homicide detective. And this was a month after the attack. And so one of the girls in November, a month after the attack, was questioned by detectives. And then more questioning, they identified the girls, and then they arrested that girl who was interviewed by detectives in November and two of her friends. That all happened in March. And then by July, the final two girls were arrested.
So the spectacle this week, as you say, has been that one of these teens who has pled guilty is now testifying against her alleged fellow attackers, which you've reported as the first kind of public accounting of the day. What have we learned at the trial that we didn't know before that?
Well, a couple of things. One, the 15-year-old who is testifying, not only is she testifying against her friend, she's also testifying against her 13-year-old sister. This 15-year-old girl who has pled guilty and who was also sentenced, by the way, she not only has she pled, but she was also sentenced to 3 years secure detention with the city's DYRS, the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. And she testified that it was her idea to go out and look for someone to attack. She testified that she asked this man in the blue coat, who she or none of the other girls knew who this man was. It was her idea to ask him, can we help? Those are the two main things that came out. At her sentencing, she definitely apologized to the family, Mr. Brown's family. She offered regrets. The prosecutors said the reason why she was the first one to receive a plea deal was because she was the first person after her arrest to immediately reach out to authorities and say, I'm sorry, I want to help make this right. And according to all the various videos that authorities had watched, it was evident that she was the first girl to stop kicking Mr. Brown. She stepped back while the other girls continued to kick Mr. Brown. And she only kicked Mr. Brown in his torso. And according to the autopsy, Mr. Brown died from blunt force trauma to his head. So as a result of that, prosecutors were okay with downgrading her second-degree murder charge to an assault with a dangerous weapon, that being her foot.
Let's be real, lawsuits are not fun. But with Christopher Nace and the trial lawyers at Paulson and Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson and Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. Partner Chris Nace is a local who cares deeply about the DC community, even serving on the board of the local branch of the Living Classrooms Foundation in his free time. Nace and his associates, Samantha Peters, John Reese, and Maya Perry, handle medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson and Nace has even been recognized as one of Best Lawyers' best law firms. So if you have been hurt or lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson and Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com or call 202-463-1999. Say goodbye to rent. Kite House, one of DC's best-selling condominiums, has an exciting new announcement. You can now own with no money down, thanks to a grant program to assist qualified buyers purchasing at Kite House. In addition to no money down, Kitehouse is offering interest rates buy-downs and new pricing. Kitehouse is part of the Parks at Walter Reed. It's a super walkable neighborhood with a Whole Foods, nail salon, and charmery, plus year-round festivals, markets, and exercise classes. One-bedroom pricing starts in the high 300,000s. 2 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms plus den are also available. There's an open house every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4. Visit www.kitehousedc.com/incentives for more information or to schedule your tour.
Hey, Andy McDaniel here. I'm Chief Creative Officer at CityCast, which means that not only have I been a part of creating the podcast that you hear every day, I've gotten to be a part of starting 12 other CityCast podcasts around the country that each sound totally different from this one. Now, it would make more business sense to make one podcast that we just published everywhere, but that is not what CityCast is about. CityCast is a national network of local podcasts. The team that you hear every day lives here, loves this city, and works so hard to reflect the issues that matter most to your future. But making a unique local show only works if local listeners like you show up to support it financially because it matters to you. That's why I'm asking you to become a member of your local CityCast. When you go to membership.citycast.fm and go through the super fast and easy few steps to become a member, it helps guarantee that we can make this show for as long as you need it. It's a relatively small act, but it has a huge impact on this show's future. Become a member of your local CityCast at membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. And thank you.
Hey DC, it's Mike with CityCast DC. We have had such an incredible showing of support, and today we're looking for another push to keep the momentum going. If you've been hearing our messages and thought to yourself, I'll become a member later, listen, now is the perfect time. You've been with us through deep dives into city politics, stories about your favorite local spots, and those quirky, unexpected conversations that make DC the amazing place it is. We've covered so much, from the secret history of alleys, to me and Bridget arguing about go-go, to wonky debates like the one we just hosted about Initiative 83. We absolutely love bringing you all of it, but here's the deal. We can't do it without you. And seriously, becoming a member is easy. It's like paying for one fancy latte a month, but with way more community impact. All you've got to do is hit that link in the show notes or head over to our website to become a CityCast DC member. Every member helps keep our team of local journalists doing what they love, bringing you the stories that matter to DC. And if you're already a member, thank you. Seriously, we could not do this without you. We are so grateful to have you as part of our community. All right, DC, that's my pitch. Let's keep it going.
I noticed you're saying, the girl, the 13-year-old, the 15-year-old, that's because these are juveniles. We're not identifying them. And as I understand it, the judge has put particularly sharp conditions about not being able to share stuff about anything that might identify them, including where they go to school and stuff.
That's correct. Normally, the press, especially the Washington Post, we do not identify juveniles who, as you said, who are charged as juveniles. Mr. Brown's family really wished that these girls were charged as adults. But in the district, it's very difficult to charge a youth as an adult if they are younger than the age of 16. So because these girls between 12 and 15, it was very unlikely that any of these girls would be charged as adults anyway. But yes, we don't identify them by name. We don't identify their parents by name. We don't identify their school. And the judge made additional demands on the reporters who are covering the trial. We can't identify whether or not they've had any mental health challenges, their schooling or lack thereof. Their truant. Add a new wrinkle to this that just came up was that any civilian witnesses, we can identify them by name, but not where they work, i.e., a school counselor testified earlier this week. We can't say what school she works at, but we can say who she is.
So tell me about the scene in court. What struck me in your reporting, your lead was that basically this was like a normal teenage day, right? They skip school, they go to the rink in Silver Spring, they go to a friend's house, and then they go out and allegedly beat a disabled person who weighed 110 pounds to death.
Because they were bored.
You're looking at them from across the courtroom. Do they look and sound like normal teenagers?
Remember, the two girls who are on trial right now have not said anything other than the names in court. I will say that, they come across as kids. One of them, the 13-year-old, when she's writing something, I haven't seen this in so long, her head is so close down to the paper and pen, she almost has her head resting on the table. Like back in the day when you were in school, when you would write and you went in your classmates to see what you were writing, you would cover your paper with your body. That's how she writes. She's so close down to the paper that her head is almost touching the paper in front of her, which she's only 13 years old. That's what kids do when they're writing. The 15-year-old who is testifying now, she is very detailed in what she's talking about. She refers to the victim as Mr. Brown, so she is showing respect. She did say today that she referred that day as the day we murdered Mr. Brown, end quote, which was chilling to hear a 15-year-old girl say something like that. A 13-year-old girl, after she was arrested, she got into a fight with a deputy marshal in the court hearing, and then all the marshals proceeded to jump on the girl, and they had to call paramedics to have the girl brought out in a gurney on a stretcher. And so that's a 13-year-old whose trial begins later this year. So to answer your question, that's a long way of answering your question. It's a gamut, right? You have girls who seem quiet, very soft-spoken. You have girls who are very well-spoken on the stand. But then you have girls who will sit and fight an adult in an open courtroom, in an open court proceeding. So it does run the gamut.
So I'm curious, this got so much attention. Are we paying attention to this because it is such a rare, shocking, bizarre headline? Or is this actually a phenomenon? Teens or even teen girls going out and looking to brutalize someone because they're bored?
That's a good question, Mike. I believe that we are covering this because 64-year-old, 14-pound man who has lupus, who only had 4 fingers, who was just walking down the street, was attacked and beaten to death. We are covering this because this same man who was attacked and beaten to death was attacked and beaten to death by 5 girls between the ages of 12 and 15. Now, which of the two is more heinous? That's completely up to whoever's listening to the story. But the fact that a 64-year-old defenseless man, elderly, disabled man, was stomped and kicked to death, I think that in of itself is a story. Who allegedly did it, I think, just makes that story, it rubs it up a little bit, if you will.
You're in the trial right now. You're not a prognosticator, but what's it looking like the result of the trial might be?
Oh, I don't do that. I never do that.
But do we know? I mean, it seems to me the man in the puffy coat is sort of a key to this story. Do we know what he had against Mr. Brown?
Right. That's a good point. But here's the thing. The man in the puffy coat did not kick and beat Mr. Brown to death. It was the girls. The girls are caught on camera doing it. The man was nowhere near. Once the girls asked if they can help, they chased Mr. Brown. They kicked and beat Mr. Brown. You don't see the man anymore in the video. So the girls are the ones who kicked and beat him to death, not this man in this blue coat.
And I know that the girl who is testifying against her friends has said that it was her idea. Do investigators believe her as best we can tell? I mean, or are they thinking that this man may hold more information that we need to know?
Well, here's the thing. On the stand, she said it was her idea. The Public Defender Service played a video of her interrogation video that was taken in July when she was arrested. And she said it was another girl's idea. So the attorneys are saying she's contradicting herself in her story. I'm not sure how much that really matters, because what's interesting is that in the video, she does identify each and every girl by name, by their full name, what they're wearing, and the prosecutors isolate each still of the photo, of the videos, and you can see the girls' faces. So it is a very challenging case for the defense.
Keith, thank you so much for your time. It's a wild story you're covering.
And thank you for giving this case your attention. I appreciate it.
And a reminder that our fall campaign is underway. Become a CityCast DC member and get good feelings and great perks. Go to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. If you're already a member, thank you. We would not be here without you. And listener, don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Mothers Outreach Network. The nonprofit's founder is here to share how they're supporting vulnerable families in DC and how you can get involved.
Hey, I'm Priyanka Tilve here with Melody Webb. She's the founder and executive director of Mothers Outreach Network. Melody, it's so good to have you here.
Nice to be here. Thank you so much, Priyanka.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read on your website that Mothers Outreach Network is a, quote, racial justice and anti-poverty organization that supports Black mothers. Obviously, you do this through a bunch of different programs, but I would love to start with the why. Why did you decide to start this organization with this specific focus?
So first, just some data. One of the biggest gaps in justice you may never have heard about is Black family separation in what is called the child welfare system. Nationally, 3 out of 4 cases of child abuse and neglect relate to poverty. And here in DC, locally, it's about 80 to 90%. As for the why, so I'm a DC native, and my parents are very young when they had their family, and they did a lot of work in the community. So this idea of looking out for neighbors and doing what we can with what we have, wherever we can, is ingrained in me. And more specifically, the inspiration behind Mothers Outreach Network originated in my work in public interest cases as an attorney, which involved representing parents who had lost custody of their children to neglect charges. And the first time I directly saw the destructive role that poverty plays in these scenarios, it involved families who couldn't really afford utilities, and the Family Services Agency came in to examine their housing situation and remove the child from the parents' care, rather than, simply helping the parents to improve their situation. That sort of case is what motivated me to work on these issues. Parents really have to jump through all sorts of hoops in order to get their children back or, to get basic assistance. And it's just an expensive, time-consuming process. So out of my years doing this work, it struck me that the system often makes the mistake of equating neglect and poverty. And so I founded Mothers Outreach Network with the goal of supporting mothers who are vulnerable and returning from incarceration at that time. And now we focus on mothers whose children have been lost to them or at risk of loss to the Child and Family Services Agency in DC.
Wow. So basically trying to financially help families stay together.
That's exactly right. And our work involves other aspects as well. But essentially that is what we do.
So is that what the Mother Up Guaranteed Income Program is all about? How does that particular program work?
Guaranteed income is a type of cash transfer program that provides help to individuals in supporting themselves and their families, providing cash on a regular basis. And the idea is that it lifts them above the income floor of poverty. And it does this without strings attached and without wage earnings required. And, in DC, essentially to afford the bare minimum, data shows an individual needs to make about $30 an hour to full-time position. And that study actually was done several years ago.
And we know inflation's gone up significantly over the last few years.
Absolutely. Our program is providing direct cash assistance to mothers who are currently or have been recently involved with the city's Child and Family Services Agency. And it's doing that for some mothers for 1 year and in other cases for 3 years, depending on the group that they're in. Currently, about 16 mothers receiving payments. And by next year, there will be more than 30.
Wow, that's a big jump.
That's absolutely right. We're very grateful for the support of individual and philanthropic donors for this work. It's through generous local and national private foundations, such as the Greater Washington Community Foundation and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, that we are able to operate this program. And our hope is that through this program, ease financial burdens for families, and that we will keep families together. And additionally, through our research component, we have engaged the Access to Justice Lab at Harvard Law School to study what effect a cash intervention can have on involvement with the Child and Family Services Agency. Mothers Outreach Network's hope is that it will demonstrate that these cash interventions can absolutely prevent and hold involvement with the Child and Family Services Agency. This is not another unaffordable government program. It really presents us with new ways of thinking about tackling societal issues of the 21st century. which we started to do during the pandemic. And the pandemic showed us how economically vulnerable we all are. So it's absolutely worthy of support.
So if people who are listening want to donate or otherwise support or even just learn more about the work that you all do, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So we're actively fundraising and accepting donations. And I would love for CityCast DC listeners to register to come to our event on Monday, October 28th at lunchtime at the True Reformer building on U Street and hear more. There's so much more to learn about our city. Come and have lunch and hear from moms, the Access to Justice Lab, and Mothers Outreach Network working in the guaranteed income space. And we would love for you to visit mothersoutreachnetwork.org for more information and for registering to attend.
Okay, perfect. Melody, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And once again, listeners who want to attend that upcoming event can go to mothersoutreachnetwork.org. We have that link in our show notes as well. So thanks for listening.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.